Good morning. I'm Dr. Tom Rivera. I'm the retired Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies here at Cal State San Bernardino. We're embarked on a new project entitled The Oral History of South Colton. And today is July the 3rd, and we're at the Fowle Library here at Cal State San Bernardino on the 4th floor. And our guest this morning is Ms. Genevieve Pérez. And Genevieve has been a lifelong resident of Colton. And Genevieve, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Thoroughly appreciate you taking time off from your busy vacation work study to be with us this morning.
That's my pleasure.
And especially the day before July the 4th. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
The other thing is that we picked you up earlier than we were supposed to, and you were ready for us. Prior to our interview, we talked about your Nina. And what was your Nina's name?
Luz Duran.
Luz Duran. Luz Duran was an avid collector of articles and materials, activities, experiences of Colton. And I see that you have her scrapbook here. It's the old scrapbook that she collected. And tell us about this scrapbook. Do you know when she got started with the scrapbook? Well, I'm sorry, but first of all, Luz was
Luz was my mom's oldest sister,
okay.
and also more like a mother, since my mom's mother passed away when my mom was 10, and she kind of raised them a little bit. But Luz only went to school to 3rd grade.
And she was the oldest of the family?
There was another one, Simon.
Uh-huh.
He was the oldest, and then Luz. And she just was very particular in keeping family records, and her friends and everybody that was involved with her. She and her husband were godparents to over 40-some children. They didn't have any children of their own, and their godchildren were very, very special.
What was his name?
Vicente.
Vicente.
Vicente Duran.
And last name?
Duran.
Duran.
Uh-huh.
Luz and Vicente Duran.
Right.
And where did they live?
They lived on 7th Street, right behind Dell's.
Yes. Yes, where the
Okay.
gas station was.
Right,
Yes.
okay. There was a house there, and then there was another house next to them. And Myrtle, all I remember was Auntie Myrtle. She was our Auntie Myrtle. She lived there. And, but those were the houses, and catty corner was Navarro's.
Right, because it was almost in the corner of O Street and 7th Street in that area.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. Yeah. And then were they both born in Colton, Luz and your,
I think my Nina was born in Mexico,
okay.
but my Nina was born at 531 O Street
Oh, in Colton
in
also?
Colton.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And where did her parents come from?
They came from, I had it written down. Oh, I have it on my phone. Anyway, they came from Mexico, the same place. And I want to say it's Leon,
Guanajuato.
that's it.
Leon, Guanajuato.
Yes.
And
both
do you
of them.
remember what year they came to Colton?
No, I
Okay.
don't.
But early, because Luz was
Early.
born in, again?
1917.
Uh-huh.
My grandparents were born in 1913 in Colton, and my grandma had been married before, but her husband and her firstborn had died. So she was here before then,
Uh-huh.
when my grandpa came over.
Uh-huh. And your grandpa coming from Mexico to Colton, why did he come to Colton?
I don't know.
Where did he work?
My grandpa was the first barber, Mexican barber in Colton,
I'll be darned.
and his shop
What was
on,
his name?
Atanasio.
Artenacio,
Atanasio.
Antenacio
Chavez.
Chavez. Antenacio Chavez. Where was his barber shop?
His barber shop was on J Street, where the tracks were, but it was on the south side of the tracks. They hadn't built the overpass yet.
Right, right,
And so it was right there. We don't have J Street anymore.
right, that, right.
But that's where his shop was. And then later he moved to O Street on a corner to where Nacho Cabrera had his shop.
The corner of 7th and O Street?
7th and O.
7th and O
Mhm.
Street. And did he have any family?
My grandma and my grandpa had 8 children. 3 boys, Simon, Ezequiel, Andres, and then 5 girls, Luz, Jessie, Petra, Jenny, and Teresa.
It was a large family.
It was a large
It was a
family.
large family.
Mhm.
And did your grandma work or just
No.
homemaker?
Homemaker.
Now, getting back to one of their daughters, Luz. Luz compiled the scrapbook that we have in front of us.
Mm.
Can you tell us a little bit about the scrapbook?
You can tell that the scrapbook was in the 40s because of there's a lot of soldiers that were in here. Their burials, their funerals, and then some that came back. And my favorite one was the Medal of Honor. And I guess that's because my dad was in the service and he made us very proud of going and being part of the service and doing this for our country.
Mm-hmm.
But this Medal of Honor winner was Yesamel Villegas, and he was from Casablanca. But he was our Medal of Honor winner, and
And then your aunt Luz so collected the articles about him.
all the articles.
And there's a picture there.
Uh-huh.
What is the picture?
This is his wife and his son,
Ismael's wife
and his son,
and his
Junior.
son. Okay.
And then this was the funeral. And this is more pictures of the funeral.
So she collected many articles of our
Our service.
of our service boys from Colton that served in the armed services. Yeah.
And this picture here is from the Casablanca Elementary School, and the kids all stood out there to salute him when he went by.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is more pictures of the funeral.
And do you remember what year, or does it say what year the funeral was?
You know what, I'm not sure. This one says November 6th, 1945.
1945. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I also noticed that she collected a lot of articles and memories of members of the family.
Right.
Uh-huh. Like there's a letter from somebody that went to St. Louis.
My tia Petra, and this was after my grandma died. My grandfather changed religions, and he went from being Catholic to being a Jehovah Witness. And they went to a revival in Kansas that was for the Jehovah Witnesses. And the tia that had written that letter, she stayed Jehovah, and everybody else stayed in the Catholic religion. But that was a big outing for them. They had never been anywhere.
They haven't been out of Colton.
No.
And they drove all the way
They
to
drove,
all the way to Kansas City,
all
was
the
it?
way to Kansas.
Uh-huh. And they had a kind of a revival type of meeting there?
Right,
Uh-huh.
So my mom would have been about 11, and my tia Petra that wrote the letter, she would have been about 14.
Because the letter is written 1941.
41?
41, and that means that, your Aunt Luz started this collection a long time ago.
Mhm,
A long
mhm.
time. What other articles do we have there that caught your interest?
This is my tío, Ezequiel,
Uh-huh.
And he stayed in the house on 531 O Street where all of them were born. They were all born in that house. And he was in Japan. And this is a picture of him. And then they had a little article saying that he had come home. And then he sent Western Union notes to my Nina. And this one was how they could send, this was called V-mail. And this was a Christmas card that he sent from Japan.
And
that's
it
how they
reads,
said,
"Greetings, it's nice to pause a moment when this season draws near to wish you a Merry Christmas and a very glad New Year." And this is signed by?
Ezequiel.
Okay, Ezequiel.
Mhm.
All right.
But
Well, he was in the
everybody-
service, huh?
Everybody knew him as Ezekiel or Kelly.
Uh-huh. Did he go to Colton High School?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I know that he worked and retired from the cement plant,
The Colton Cement
the
Plant?
Colton cement plant, yes.
Okay.
But I don't know what his schooling was, because I know that Luz and my tia Jessie, I think they only went up to 3rd grade. And then Petra, Jenny, my mom, and Teresa, they were graduates of Colton High School.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What other story drew your interest on this collection?
Some of these,
Well, you know, you have a wonderful treasure here. Now, how did you happen to wind up with this?
my Nina died in 1963. And my Nino wanted to make sure that all of us got something. And so he gave this to my mom. And there was another book and a lot of history. There was so much history. And so when I got old enough, my mom saw that I was very interested in photography, and I kept little scrapbooks myself and stuff. And so she says, you know what, this needs to go to you, because you've taken on this role.
Uh-huh.
And so I was very honored to be able to take this, but it's so old and tattered. As soon as you touch it, it starts falling apart, and you can see all these little pieces.
Uh-huh.
But they had in the paper where my tia, Ezequiel's wife, Mrs. Chavez, honored with a dinner party. And they had a party for her, and people of Colton were all invited. But the one that I always remember...
When was this? What year? Do you know what year this was?
48.
Okay.
And this one was in July of 48, and it was the Van Akens.
Oh, at their backyard.
Right.
Uh-huh.
The Van Akens used to throw the best parties. And being a little kid, I mean, for sure for Easter we would be there, and they would have a humongous Easter egg hunt and food galore and music, and I mean, everybody was there.
And this was on Congress Street,
on Congress.
just behind the baseball diamond.
Right,
Uh-huh.
right. And their property was so big, you know, so everybody fit.
Uh-huh.
And they had parking for everybody. I really enjoyed those days.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that I like that. And there was a little article on her where she had given a farewell party for 2 of her friends. And they were Betty Ashi and Betty Chang. And they were going back to Hawaii. And the people that were there were Antonio Arroyo, Luz Duran, Jenny Chavez, Dolores Hernandez, Saul Shafrey, Betty Ashi, Betty Chang, and Mr. and Mrs. Van Aken.
I'll be damned. You know, Genevieve, what you read just brings to me a lot of memories because I knew Antonia Arroyo,
Mm-hmm.
and she was married to Louis Arroyo, and they lived there on K Street,
Mm-hmm.
next to the church house in the Catholic Church. Well, this brings back a lot of memories, like I mentioned, Antonia Arroyo and her husband Louis Arroyo. Antonia is very involved in not only the church, but also the Garfield Elementary School, because her sons went to Garfield. Arnold and the oldest one, I can't remember the oldest one's name, but she was very involved in community affairs. And the other person that you mentioned was Jenny Chavez. Jenny Chavez lived almost next door to the Venecans, and they lived behind the baseball field at the Veterans Park, and they were my mom's and dad's compadres.
Oh, okay.
So they were my mom and dad's compadres, and they baptized my youngest brother, Danny, and they were also co-workers in construction, especially the building roads, freeways, paving roads and freeways. So they were both in construction, so very, very good friends of ours. Who else did you mention there in that
Well,
article?
Dolores Hernandez, she cooked the dinner for mine and Fernando's wedding.
Uh-huh.
She made our dinner. But these
let's see,
women,
Dolores made the dinner for your wedding?
Lola,
Lola?
Lola Hernandez.
I know Lola. She's
Yes.
Louis'
Louis'
mom.
Uh-huh.
And they're also long life residents of Colton.
Right.
And her husband, Pete Pedro, worked for the cement plant.
Right.
And he was also a very good baseball player, and he played for the cement company's softball team. And the softball field was next to the plant there in Colton.
Mm-hmm.
And but a good ball player, just an excellent ball player. Who else did you have there?
Well, some of these women, and not all of them are on here, but they had a group, these women, and they were called Las Teenagers. And it was Luz Duran, Jessie Velasquez, which is my Nina's sister,
Oh, it would be Jessie Velasquez, her husband,
Tommy,
Tom Velasquez. They owned the 76 gas station
right,
in Colton just before, at the entry of Colton.
right at the entry of Colton.
Right in front of the
Wilson
bridge,
School.
the Wilson or
Yeah.
the Garfield School Bridge.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And Mary Morataya,
Mary Murataya, a few feet from the bridge, had a hardware store and
Right.
furniture store. What was her husband's name? Sarko?
the-
Sarko Murataya. Sarko.
Sarko.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and then
Who else was part of that group?
Nella Rodriguez.
And who was Nella Rodriguez?
That was Manuela, and they owned the store, Esperanzas.
Oh, they were the ones that started La Esperanza Market on